I had an interesting conversation with a guy at the hospital. I went up there to see my wife, and this guy, he's a surviving heart patient. So he wanted to share his experience. He's a volunteer, I believe, and he's 78 years old. Well, you know me, I'll talk your ears off. I'll talk to you about 20, 30 minutes, and you'll probably avoid me for the rest of your life. Because you've had all you can have. And I was listening. Well, we talked about a lot of things, you know, about heart and some of the experience, not medical advice. But listening to the guy, a real smart individual, and he told me his mama was a teacher, and she was a genius, and his brother was a genius. And when they got old, his mother asked him, he said, "How come you was more successful than me?" Well, before I go into that point, what is success? You could be living at home and happy, and your parents not mind you being there. Or you could be living out in the woods on your own land, and as long as you're legal, you just about have to have power and water a lot of places, or to kick you off your own property. And just talking about mostly America, because I don't know the rest of the world. The rest of the world is different, and I'm sure there's different ways of living. And then you look at the movies, how they lived in the old days, the cowboy days and the frontier days. It's totally different than what we have now. So, you know, there's a lot of advantages of modern medicine. And then the things have changed. The nation and history have learned things. But a lot of other countries have been around a lot longer than the USA has. So what is success measured? What do people majorly measure success? You know, in America, we consider our freedom, but sometimes we're not as free as you'd think, because you have a lot of people, when they retire, they're like, wait a minute, I'm not as free. And most of America's success, most Americans, I believe, we look at success as what our money can do and our purchasing power and our financial status is what we mainly judge our success, you know. But a lot of people in other countries might not be living on $10 a day, say the Philippines, but they have family and they have culture. They make do with what they get. They don't have, some of them don't have the nicest things. Now, I ain't talking about the ones that are totally impoverished, but they're happy. So what is success? Somebody lives a happy life, has to work hard to maintain it and survive by what they have. Or somebody who spends 70 hours a week for 40 or 50 years, making good money, and then once they retire, they lose their purpose and they die within 5 years. Or somebody that's had family and all these memories and culture and relationships. You know, who's richer, who's poor? It all depends on what you consider success. But, you know, they could use a little bit of help too, I guess, in finance. But I was talking to a guy, and I'm not rich, but I'm able to get by. So, you know, is that successful? Or am I impoverished? And the guy was telling me he was working, but then I told him I was thinking about retiring at 62. Now, I'm only 52, and I think you can make $21,000 a year before it cuts into your Social Security. Then you still have to figure out how to get insurance and all that. And I'm looking at some stuff now about help.gov and e-insurance they told me to check into. I think I make too much, or if you don't have children, it's not worth getting Medicaid. Or if you're working a little bit, I think Medicaid, you just about had to be really, really no money at all. But I make a little bit. But I think you make over $1,000 a month. So I make just a little bit, like $1,400 a month on that one job. So I feel pretty successful. You know, I mean, everything's paid off, even though I don't have any money. But I'm not hurting. I just don't have no money. So, you know, is that success or not? Some people might think it is. Some people might not. But I talked to the guy, and he was giving me some crazy stuff, man, like paying $1,800 a year for some kind of stock newsletter. And I don't even know if you could buy partial shares, the top stocks and different ratings. And it's almost too complicated to keep up with. And I don't know if he got a commission, if I was able to, I don't have $1,800 to buy this stock thing, but they said he made in 10 years, his investment is multiplied by 10 times. So it's like 100-something thousand. Now it's worth $1 million. And I said, well, that's pretty good. And I said, you know, he said it was an IRA, so I don't know how the tax laws work. They had to call a tax accountant. But, you know, I guess it's protected from taxes. Who knows? But he's 78, so 401k, I know it's 73 now. You got to start making mandatory withdrawals. And I meant to ask him that, but he didn't tell me what he does with that, because you got to do a certain percentage every year. But he did pretty good. He worked 7 days a week, and he appreciates what he had. And when he was young, at 9 years old, he's 78. So take 71 years from 2023. So it's a long time ago. 20 would be, and then 50. So that'd be like 1950 something. So he's probably born in around World War II, I guess, somewhere around there. So he grew up, and his parents were smart. But at 9 years old, they let him start managing the budget of the house. And he was always one of these people who, he had an engineering mind, and his jobs, they always promoted him because he could look at things and see how things were done, and he would pick up on how to do it, and he could just take it apart and do it. His perspective was the whole thing instead of just a piece of it. And the way I get through stuff, you know, Google's helped me a little bit, but I made a lot of mistakes, and my perspective doesn't necessarily see the right things. But, you know, I feel successful. I got a wife, even though she's real sick, 2 children, two grandchildren right now. So I feel okay. So no matter where you at, you can be successful. You just had to believe you're successful or be satisfied where you're at, but you can always improve it. But then you have to weigh the cost versus the sacrifice. You know, do you want to make tons of money, have very little time to enjoy life, but you made a lot, and then somebody else is going to get it when you pass? Miserable, you had to be there. You're kind of, there's a machine, it's running, and say a sprocket is in the machine. So the machine's not really going to run without you because you're a part of that sprocket. But you retire or get sick, they'll throw a new sprocket in there. Or you could be some of the nuts and bolts that hold the machine together, like the regular workers. I'd be like a nut and bolts guy. I wouldn't be the sprocket driving everything, but I'd help, you know. I'd take the tension off the sprocket by holding the machine together, you know, figuratively speaking. So you can be successful no matter where you're at. I've seen guys now, there's more options, but people don't want to do it because they're like, everybody's tired of killing themselves for nothing, figuratively speaking. Like I seen one guy, I think he's on TikTok, and he had a tiny home, had a Tesla, and he was doing DoorDash. But everything was, I guess everything is paid for. He had a water collection system. I ain't seen him for a while, and he had a cat. Well, he was happy. He wasn't married. He was a young fella, and he was successful. I seen another guy now. He went to private property, the Army Engineer Corps, I believe, and he made all kind of living structures, and they kicked him off and told him he had to clean it up. Now, he was renting with roommates, and he wanted to have his own. He should have just bought some property and done that himself. but, you know, he didn't. So you learn. And then you've had, like, you know, Elon Musk spent like 50 hours a week. Him and another guy, what you can find about him, traded hours on the computer, and they kept that thing going, wrote all kind of code, learned coding. You got to have a knack for that too, because teaching yourself that skill, that's, you know, very hard, and being able to apply it to make something that somebody wants and then selling it, like PayPal and other stuff he did. And then he did all these businesses, and he's got great people with him, but he still has had that drive. And then you got Mr. Beast that makes video content, and he said, don't be like me, because he has a meltdown about every week, because he's so obsessed with it. It's his baby. So, you know, he don't really have the life balance. And you see people on the internet, and you guys see me, hey, and I just, you know, the definition of success doesn't have to be what everybody thinks it is. Because most people, no matter what they make, most people are going to live paycheck to paycheck, spend much money, and they're going to retire and go on. They're just going to go with the flow. But kind of like Andrew Tate, what he's seen, that he made enough money, he got out of the routine of what you normally have to do. And I think that's what he's talking about. If I understand it, the matrix is, it's a new term. Instead of being the ferret on the little wheel, you know, there's a little, I believe it's a ferret or a guinea pig maybe, and it runs on the little wheel. So it's working, but it's not going anywhere. And that's the way most people are. Most people, you know, you get up, you go to school. School was created by an entrepreneur that pushed it, and I forget the guy's name, but he created school to make great employees, because they said, we need employees to work at our factories. So what do? Well, let's educate them. Let's teach them math, writing. They teach you the basics, so you're smart enough to go out here and get a job and make money. You making whatever you're making, and the other guy's making millions of dollars a year while you're making, you know, 30,000 or 40,000, whatever. 30, 40, 70,000 ain't really a lot compared to the guys owning the money, you know, but they got so much invested, but they're getting tax write-offs and all that you don't get, and they're just making generational wealth when you're just making weekly wealth or every 2 week wealth. So that's kind of the matrix, when you have to work every day for 40 years, and then hopefully you get a little retirement, which they're trying to take away, and then you retire, and it's like nobody pays attention to you anymore, and hopefully your health's still good, but if your health goes bad, you retire and you're just struggling to make it to the next day, you know, and everybody's kind of like wanting to push you out of the way. But if you fall out of that cycle that everybody does, everybody wants to work, but then you can't work, and they force you out of the cycle. And then other people kind of break out of the matrix, sort of, but they start their own business. So they're still kind of in it, but it's out of the employee mindset and the business owner mindset, which is more beneficial. It takes more time, but you're making a lot of money for the government and everything else. So, you know, what is success? Success is measured by how you feel about it, not by what others feel about it. So if you working all the time and you feel successful, then you're successful. But other people might look at you and say, I don't want to do that. I was working at a job and I thought it was okay. I was making money, paying my bills, had good insurance. But people come in and work, first break, where they at? They go to the bathroom, where they at? They'd be gone. Wouldn't even make it a whole night. Even had a couple people I knew went to high school with that come all the way down there. They worked a little while. They said, this ain't for me. And I was thinking, well, what am I doing here? Why am I able to be here? You know, but then you get older, get certain situations, and I was at a job. So they ran me off. And other people there probably ain't even thinking like me, like, why am I still here? You know, but so they threw me out of the matrix, sort of. And then I'm thinking, well, it ain't so bad out here. It was like I was a fish in a pond, and now I'm just walking around. You know, I'd like to make some more money. Might not be able to do the business stuff, but what is success? You know, success is how you feel about things. And then how your needs and wants. And now my needs are pretty much took care of. And I don't really have a lot of wants. So my expectations of things are less. So it makes me a whole lot more successful because everything's covered. You know, I had to think about, well, I need some shampoo or I need some body wash. I go buy it, and, you know, I had enough to buy it. Then I go to work, make enough, and I got enough to buy some when I need it again. I don't have stockpiles of it, but I got enough. I got what I need, you know. So what is success? I think that's pretty successful. But, you know, this guy was very interesting. He mentioned something about some old school terms that I wasn't familiar with. Some kind of, I think they used to have like a bicycle, but it was like a big wheel and a little wheel, unicycle, or he said something kind of weird. Maybe during World War II, some kind, maybe 70s, 60s, I don't know. I remember tricycles, but some of the things I ain't familiar with, some of the old stuff. He's 78, so he's a lot older than me. And he started mentioning about drawing Social Security at 63 because of the unicycle. But basically, I believe what he was saying, and I said it. He didn't argue with me. But then because I said it a different way, I think it kind of made him have to think because he was thinking a certain way. So I overloaded his brain, or he got tired of talking to me. Or maybe I was wrong all the way. But I said, so you're saying pretty much with him having his health conditions, which he was very resistant to understanding it, and they almost didn't catch it in time, where they had to do open heart surgery on him. So it kind of a wake-up call, because he could see the world around him, see so many things, and his own body was his own weakness. Now he's 78, so obviously he's done some good stuff, but he said, well, and then you figure it up. You look at mysocialsecurity.gov, and it shows a number at 62, then a number at 67, then a number at 70, and you can figure out even the other years, how much would I draw if it's still around. And it, you know, talking about it running out of money, and it's free money from the government. Well, not really free because you had to work your butt off for it, but you know, it takes usually 20 years, roughly. And you can figure it up yourself and see where you come up at. But if I retired at 62, but I've got 10 more years. So it's going to change. If I keep working, it might go up a little bit. And then you got COLA, which is cost of living adjustment. So you get a little increase every so often. But if I get this much at 62, by 67, I'd draw a little bit more. But it would take all the way almost 20 years before what I drew at 62. And I waited those 5 years to 67 before the money I made at 67 would start making more than what I drew at 62. Say I got, you know, 13,000 a year or 15 or whatever, 62. That's 5 years at that much. Then you get 25 at 67, you know, it's a lot more, but then you're gonna have to wait to get 82 or 78, somewhere around there. You can figure it up yourself. You can add how much per year, add it together each year, and then over here at 67 do the same thing, and you'll come way down here before this money equals like 200 something thousand, and that equals 200 something thousand, and then the next year it's gonna be more. But you might not. Most men, 67, you're lucky, or 76, you're lucky to live that much. So 62 to 82, you draw more Social Security. Now you might have, if you got a good job, but you can, at 62, you can make 21,000 and not have to work 40 hours a week, not have to be on a restricted schedule. Because there was a lady, she was a retired school teacher. Now she was in her 70s and she was working, her husband was working, and they just decided they didn't want to retire yet. They just enjoyed working and had nothing else to do, I guess. So she started another career after she retired. A lot of people do that in this area because you have a military base, and a lot of them can retire, you know, at 40-something years old, 20 years military, and still go work somewhere for another 20 years and just spend all that money. So it really boosts the economy because they just keep buying everything instead of saving. You know, they wouldn't have had to work that long if they'd have saved their money. But, you know, divorces happen and people lose half their assets and all this mess. But I just thought it was something that, you know, at 62, you still make 20,000, get that other retirement, and at 67, you might not work no more, but, you know, and then at 65 or whatever, you still get your Medicare, you know, but you have to do your own financial planning. You have to measure everything out. You have to look at your health, your wants, your needs, your children. You know, hey, I always want a brand new car every year. I want a big old boat. I want a, you know, $500,000 house. I want like 30 rental properties. Do I care? You know, I want to be able to go to Walmart and buy something today, or do I have to worry about going to the dollar store? You know, you got to prioritize all that. And whatever we're buying now in 2023, 10 years from now, they might have a disrupted market. I don't see Dollar General going anywhere anytime soon, but the Dollar Tree, I might be wrong, but I believe they bought Family Dollar, and now they're combining them. So Family Dollar got bought out by Dollar Tree, or $1.25 Tree. So who knows? Then you have all the conspiracy theories, how they're controlling things, and people look at the commercials, and that's what I say, kind of the Matrix. You know, you brainwashed by all this stuff, and then we're supposed to be free, and then we're sending all this money over to other areas. You know, they say we're the police of the world. But why are we the police of the world? We're not really the police of the world, but we have people here that have money, or other countries have money, and they pretty much hire us to go do their bidding for them because we have a good military. So we're kind of like mercenaries. And even though our influence is portrayed, but some of these people are happier than we are. You know, some of their lifestyles, and they're willing to die for it very strongly. You know, so who knows? Who knows who's right? Who knows who's wrong? You know, all you can go by is your beliefs. Some people don't believe in things. Then you got AI coming, and it's a game changer. Everything's going to change, and then people trying to sell the electric cars, and a lot of people believing in that. But nobody's really shown all the research. You know, somebody said it costs more with electric cars than it does with gas, because you got to, you know, gas pumped out of the ground to make it, put fuel, and runs the car. It's carbon emissions and all, but then the energy that people get for the electric car comes from carbon emissions. So it's like they're pushing one narrative, and they're not showing you how it got there. You know, it's like they push all this food, and all the food's got all this stuff in there that's bad for you. They push the narrative about this car. They push the narrative about breakfast, the most important meal of the day, to sell bacon. They wanted to sell more, so they said, we'll do this marketing campaign. In America, they're pushing all this woke stuff. They're not doing that around the rest of the world. You know, what's the point of that? It's all money. Money motivational. Even, I believe it was Ice Cube, if I'm mistaken. He's the one with the short hair and the beard. Made a lot of movies, and, you know, he used to be kind of radical to the, you know, something about the police. And he's real smart. Well, he said that kind of dropped the bomb that the music industry was even playing more violent music that catered toward people committing more crimes, the lifestyle and the wording. And then they bought a whole bunch of prisons. And then they're producing music that's going to generate more criminals by playing that music and that lifestyle and that message. You know, it depends on what message you're putting. And a lot of people with a good message, nobody wants to listen to it. They'll fight them, you know, call them all kind of names, and they're trying to tell you something good. Nobody wants to hear it. They want to do what they want. But they get swayed by the bad message. And then they get swayed by what's successful, what it means to be right. And then, are they happy or are they miserable? And then people had to take drugs in order to calm their nerves and just live with themselves. So they must not be too happy or successful in their terms or anybody else. So who knows? What is success? That's just my thoughts on it. Talking to this guy and how he made all his money and he's volunteering. And, you know, I got an autistic child and got my issues. And he just looks at me like, well, I'm glad I wasn't like that. I'm glad my children were normal, you know, and I'm glad he was honest enough. He's 78, he's honest enough and old enough to have his own opinion, but I'm like, well, you know, it ain't all bad. It just appears on the surface because he's ignorant and he don't understand that they're still human and have a soul, and there's a lot of good, even though there's a lot of handicapness and limitations, but he's still a very beautiful soul, even though he has limitations. So it kind of irked me. And even though he's seen all this stuff, managed his budget at 9 years old, and he's a very smart guy, but then he didn't watch his health. He was looking around, and he did tell me about an herb that's supposed to, but a doctor told him, you know, he's kind of a respectable individual. And they had a doctor come to one of their little things. This ain't health advice, but they said they had it all wrong. You know, most people, they give you statins when you have cholesterol. So a lot of these medicines and doctors, the Matrix again, like Pac-Man, they follow a set protocol and things to make money. It's all about making money. It's not about helping you. It'll keep you alive. But it's not the beginning part or the rest of the story, as the guy used to say. If you're old enough to understand what that means, he'd always say, now the rest of the story, you know, because there's like people pushing this agenda about, you know, not staying in the politics, but how there's so many genders. Well, there's only really two, a man and woman, but then they say biological or what they accept. That just don't make a bit of sense. Well, it's the same thing. Electric cars, anything that doesn't really make sense. But then, is electric cars really worth it? Once you go into who disposes of the battery, how do you mine to get the ore for all the materials that go into it? How are you supplying the electricity? Are you doing all solar farms? How long does the solar farms last? Or who's mining it up? What kind of materials are you using? Are you using carbon fuels to produce the solar? And then, you know, is it really worth it? So nobody really answers the first question, the whole piece. They only push the narrative they want. That's what makes things so dangerous, because they only say it. That's just like the Matrix, so to speak. Everybody's working. You know, what are you supposed to do? Go to school. Get a good job. But you can get a lot of jobs without going to school. You go to school, it just shows, hey, I'm so proud of you. You show up today, every day, go to class. You can read the book. You can pass a test. You can remember what you say. You might even be able to use it a little bit to help you. And it's nothing's wrong with school, but it's kind of being sold a lie. Or sold, it might work for somebody, but it ain't gonna work for everybody. You know, I got 3 degrees and I was able to go to school, but it's hard to get the jobs doing it. And I've mostly been in production, you know, working hard. But it's like once you kind of fall off, most people don't fall off, I guess, the merry-go-round or the little wheel, the routine things, or the matrix, I guess what they call it. The house with the 2.3 kids and the white picket fence, the American dream, whatever they're selling people. Because the banks needed to make money. And they said, well, how can we make money? I know what, we'll come up with a mortgage. So the banks created this mortgage in order to buy this house. And now these houses went crazy value. Like in the 70s, you could get a nice house for about maybe $3,000, $7,000 $7,000. Now they're $300,000, $500,000. You know what happened? Inflation. You know, I don't even think the stock market would have got that increase. I ain't done it the 10% year, or 4% a year or whatever, but that seems a little high. So, and then cars, everything just going crazy. Inflation and people pushing the price and money going overseas. You know, why is all this money going overseas to different places? And it's just being printed. Somebody's making money on it, or is protecting somebody's money. We wouldn't be doing it. Why ain't we in Africa had all these problems? South America's had all these problems. Why ain't we there? We go to Taiwan, you know, you got AI, computer chips. You know, we're not really the police of the world, but we're protecting American or somebody's business interest. You know, it doesn't affect us. Now, we do have a lot of good stuff over here as citizens. We got a power grid that's pretty good. Some of it's outdated. Some of it has power issues, but it's pretty good. We have, you know, like 1 or 2 wires. I've seen some countries where it looks like they have a whole bunch of tree limbs wound together in a foot. So there's like 50 wires going on the same power poles. Something falls apart, and it's probably not even insulated. So some countries, their infrastructure is terrible. The water is bad, and a lot of stuff. You know, we got certain areas where we've had bad water and chemicals, and it makes the whole town go in a ghost town. So we got a lot of good stuff, but there's a lot of bad stuff that could be better. But the ones that know about it, they get rich. They're making, used to be 50, but some of their salaries are like 160, 180, 200,000 a year. They don't care. So they make 200,000 a year. Half that's bills, or it's costing 50,000 to live wherever they're at, and they get all this free stuff. But then they're like, they got $10 million in assets after about 10 years or less. Where'd all that money come from? They ain't made that much. See? So it's a lot of corruption out there too. So everybody else is having to pay for that. So just, you know, what's successful? Do you own your soul? Did you give your soul away? Do you have a place after death to go to? You know, did you work? Felt good, worked around a bunch of people that didn't really like you, and sacrificed your family where they couldn't see you in order to make money? Or was you able to spend time with them and be an influence in their lives and let them be rooted and stable? You know, what is success? What is success to you? So I feel pretty good. You can always do better. You can always do worse. So be your own judge about what success is, and have your own happiness. Don't let other people bring you down on what they think success is, or what you need to be. And I believe it was worse during my mom's time, I guess baby boomers. So I'd say I was kind of in the 80s, but maybe the 60s, and the political unrest and the different times, people had to put on a face. They had to dress a certain way and act a certain way, and it was more fake. They couldn't be who they were. Now people are a whole lot more individualized and can be who you want to, whether you're accepted or not. But you can be happy. You can be who you want. So that's kind of successful. And if you're able to pay your bills and you can get out of bed every day, you know, and smile and, hey, how you doing? You know, and breathe air. You know, it's kind of cloudy now, but see the sun. Get bit by mosquitoes or not. Be able to just enjoy another day. I mean, that's pretty successful right there. And that don't cost anything. That's given by the Lord. So anyway, I just thought I'd share that if that makes any sense. Rambling on, I need to cut it off, or I got another movie that's like almost an hour. It's probably going to take 2 days to upload. This will probably take a while, so it's 36 minutes. But thank y'all. Thank y'all for letting me ramble on and share my ideas about success. And I'm going to just title this, What is success to you? And just